Hi, we're Steve and Laura. We're a recently retired couple who love to travel, and so we flew.
We decided to go across the Atlantic on a cruise ship. And we had heard that if you're going to do that, Cunard is the one to travel on. And so we chose to go on Cunard from Queen Victoria, from Fort Lauderdale to Southampton as our means of getting to Europe.
So we wanted to give you just kind of a brief overview or our thoughts about Queen Victoria and Cunard. So we're going to start with the pub. We'd heard about the pub. It's one of the places that you can go eat, as well as it being a pub, a bar. And one of the things that they had was fish and chips were actually really good. So we had that a few times, the fish and chips.
We did, and we enjoyed that. Outside of the pub is a small casino. It's in a very public area, so there's no smoking, and it's actually very small. So for those that don't like casinos, it was great. And if you do like casinos, you could still find activities to do.
And if you do like casinos, you might want to try a different ship. One of the things that really impressed us with the Queen Victoria were all the places where you could sit and relax. This was going to be a 14-day cruise. Quite a few of those were going to be sea days. So we wanted a ship that we could just relax, read a book, play games, whatever. And this was definitely, that hit all the marks. It was great. There was, on all the public floors, there were just lots of comfortable chairs to sit in. They even have a place called the Winter Garden, which is kind of an indoor-outdoor place that you can sit and relax in. They even had heaters for in the evening when it got chilly, and they had blankets if it got chilly, which it did a couple nights. And then also, of course, all the outdoor ones by the pool. So we really enjoyed that.
There is a library. Most cruising ships have libraries, but Cunard has a 2-floor one. I don't think in any of the ships we've ever been on, we've seen a library this size. And we've got some video of that. It's beautiful to see. You can see that there's 2 floors. We often wandered just into the library just looking for different books and different authors and things to read. We both read a couple of books from the library during our visit.
Yeah, we really did enjoy that. We also enjoyed the restaurants. There were several. There was the main dining room where we all ate. We ate most of our meals, and we opened for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We also were able to eat on the Lido deck. Most cruise ships have a Lido deck where it's a buffet style, and the food was really, really quite good. In fact, sometimes the food was better on the Lido deck than it was in the main dining room for certain items. We also could have afternoon tea in the Queen's room or on the Lido deck. And they even had a place where you could get a burger and hot dogs and fries over by the pool. So yeah, we really enjoyed that. The other thing that we found is we inadvertently signed up for anytime dining, which we don't normally do. We usually like the early dining. But we found that by doing this, we sat with a bunch of different people. We met a bunch of different people. The clientele on a Cunard ship was more international than we've been on, with most of the cruises that we've been on. That we've met people from, of course, UK and Germany, which is where the cruise started from, but also New Zealand, Japan, Canada, and it was really fun to hear people's experiences. Many of them had been on this cruise ship since January when the cruise started.
Cunard is a very elegant ship, and you can see, looking at the decor throughout, how elegant it is. It is also designed probably more for older clientele. There were not a lot of young kids, not a lot of even young adults, but there were a few. But it certainly was geared towards our age more than younger people.
And then our room. So because this was a transatlantic in March, we chose not to have a balcony. We decided that we would do ocean view, so just a window. So we were on deck 1, midships, and it turned out to be a great room. The bathroom was a little small, but that's true of most cruise ships. But other than that, I thought the room, it had sufficient closets. Everything else seems to be sufficient. And one morning, the captain said over the announcements that there were dolphins on the port side, which is the side we were on. And we could look out our window and see the dolphins because we were really close to the water level. So that was kind of fun. We enjoyed it. I would do a window view again. It wasn't bad.
One of the advantages with the Cunard ship and all the seating area, having that stateroom that just had the window view, we could go out and find plenty of places to sit, and we often did. And we could sit and relax and not have to be in our room.
So yes, and that's true. And that was one of the things that made having that room doable. One of the things people ask us about is, what's entertainment like? And we get that question a lot whenever we go on a cruise. Cunard has they had a really good nightly show. They have, like all cruise lines do, they had their performers, their dancers, their singers, their band. Their band was actually very good. And then they, so they did the typical cruise type shows. But the thing that we were the most impressed with was their lecturers. They had lectures 2 to 3 times a day that you could choose from. They had an author who wrote a book. He wrote the book Dunkirk, which was then made into a movie. So he came and talked about that. He had several other books too that he discussed. So we learned a lot about European history, especially during World War II. And we had another lecturer who talked about famous people like Cleopatra and
Mary Queen of Scots
and Lord Nelson. And those were really interesting lectures. And the fun thing too is the ship was small enough. We actually ran into the lecturers and could talk to them, afterwards and just chat about their experiences and stuff. So that was really kind of neat.
Also the theater, as you can see, is very elegant. It was a very pleasant place to be. There were boxes that you could pay for to be up on top. We never did that, but
those came with champagne and chocolates if you did that.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
There were lots of other activities that one could do. You could play trivia games. There were crafts that you could create and build. There was watercoloring. There was an art historian that spoke, and he was interesting. We also had an Olympic runner that had won a medal and a gold medal and talked about training and preparing for that. So we had almost no time on the ship because there were just so many activities.
Yeah, we'd have days where we'd be pretty much trying to figure out when to eat between the different activities. So that was a lot of fun. They also have a sports deck of sorts. It's not huge like some of them are, but they did have a pickleball court, which was kind of fun. We were never able to play pickleball because a few times we went up there, it was being used. But table tennis, we walked past that all the time, and those table tennis tables were used all the time and fierce. I mean, there were crowds sometimes. So that was kind of interesting.
The spa and the exercise room were very nice. We did take advantage of the spa. We got a couples massage one time, but also they had a thermal room with heated loungers and then a sauna pool, a thermal pool that you could rest in and relax in that had jets more powerful than just a hot tub, and as well as saunas that you could sit in. The aroma sauna and the heat sauna, steam sauna,
and a dry sauna as well.
Dry sauna. So there were a lot of choices, and we took advantage of that during the time.
Yeah, because it was such a long, so many sea days. That was really a nice splurge on our end to be able to go and relax at the end of the day and get warm too sometimes.
Our experience with Cunard was very good. There were some people, well, lots of people that we met were very loyal to Cunard. They'd been on several Cunard cruises, and some had not been on other cruises, or some had been on a couple of other cruises, but then returned to Cunard and did a dozen cruises or more.
Well, and not only that, some of the people were really loyal to the Queen Victoria specifically, to that ship. I was surprised how many people said, "Oh yeah, we way prefer the Queen Victoria." It's the smallest of their 4 ships, but a lot of people really liked the fact that it was so small. That we ran into people over and over all the time because the ship, it only had 2,000 passengers. So you see people over and over all the time, which was really kind of fun. And I think that's one of the things people liked about it.
Yeah, if we were to do it again, well, first of all, we would definitely recommend doing it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we'd be willing to do it again. I think if we did it again, we'd be very interested in going on the Queen Mary 2. That's supposed to be their most elegant one. It's a larger one, so we'd like to maybe experience that. But
Yeah.
our experience with Cunard was very positive, and we would recommend it to anybody.
And I have had questions, people asking me, how fancy do you have to dress on these Cunard ships? And you can dress as fancy or as casual as you want to. They do have some requirements for the main dining room. If you want to be casual, you need to eat at the Lido deck on their gala nights or on the more formal nights. But for the most part, collared shirt was all that was required. So we could get by with Steve wearing a polo shirt and they'd let him in. So it wasn't, I wouldn't make that be a reason not to go on a Cunard ship. I would still do it, even if you don't want to be all dressed up.
All right. Well, that's our report on Cunard. Until next time, goodbye.
Happy travels.